In this video, I'm going to talk about how a monopolist sets a price when the monopolist must charge the same price to all of its customers. Now, I'm going to assume there's a giant barrier to entry up, so the monopolist does not have to worry about any other firm entering its market. Let's start with a really simple example. There's a monopolist that can make a good for free, absolutely zero cost. And there's only two people in the world who want to buy this product, Bill and Tom. The monopolist somehow knows the most Bill is willing to pay for the good is $100, and the most that Tom's willing to pay is $12. What's the monopolist going to do? Again, remember our assumption that the monopolist has to charge all of its customers the same price. Well, I think the monopolist is going to sell one good just to Bill, right? If the monopolist is going to sell just to one person, might as well sell it to the person willing to pay the most, which is Bill, and might as well get as much money as you can from Bill, so you'll charge Bill $100. If the monopolist wanted to sell two goods, well, it'd have to charge only $12, and that wouldn't be worth it to the monopolist. The monopolist would rather sell one good to Bill for $100 than sell two goods to Bill and Tom for $12 each. But this creates a social loss. Tom places a positive value on the good. He's willing to pay up to $12 for it. And the monopolist can make the good for free. So it's socially efficient for Tom to get the good, right? If the monopolist can make something for free that someone else puts a positive value on, we'd be richer if that person ended up getting the good from the monopolist. But the monopolist is going to be unwilling to sell the good to Tom. So imagine a hypothetical conversation between Tom and the monopolist. The monopolist is only making one good and selling it to Bill. So Tom says, Mr. Monopolist, I know you can make this good for nothing. I'm willing to pay up to $12 for it. So why don't you make it and then sell it to me for, an amount under $12 and I'm better off and you're better off. The monopolist would say, well, Tom, if you were our only potential customer, we would do that. But unfortunately, the only way we can sell the good to you is if we sell the good to Bill at a much lower price than Bill is willing to pay. So we're unwilling to sell the good to you. Even though we could make a profit off just selling it to you, when you put Bill into the picture, we would lose so much money from having to give Bill a reduced sale price that's not worth selling it to you. Now, the monopolist's unwillingness to sell to Tom creates what's called a deadweight loss. When there's a deadweight loss, one person loses something, but no one else makes up for that. No one else gets that. So let's imagine that I lose something of value. I lose something that's worth $50 to me, but you find it and it's worth $50 to you. There's no deadweight loss. I lost something, but you gained it. So, in the point of view of society, that nets out. In contrast, if I lose something and it's destroyed, that's just a deadweight loss. A deadweight loss is, again, it's like burning wealth. Tom not getting this good creates a deadweight loss. Tom is worse off, and it's not that no one else gets, a benefit from that. So society is poorer from Tom not getting the good. This gets into the heart of why monopolies can create a market failure. Again, let's revisit this example. Bill values the good at 100, willing to pay up to 100 for the good. Tom values it at 12. And there's an entity that can make the good absolutely for free. So if we had everything working out really nicely, Bill and Tom would both get the good because they both value it at more than it costs to make. But a monopolist who has to charge everyone the same price will be unwilling to do this. So the monopolist will produce too few goods, will have a socially inefficient outcome. So this is an example of Adam Smith's invisible hand not working. Let's do a slightly more complicated example of monopolist pricing. Now there are three customers. The first values it at 100, the second 90, and the third at 20. What's the monopolist going to do? Why don't you just pause the video and figure this one out? It's not that hard. Okay, well, I think the monopolist is going to sell two goods for $90. So remember, the monopolist, by our rules, has to sell to everyone for the same price. If the monopolist is going to sell just one good, might as well sell it to John, get $100 and have no cost. If he's going to sell two goods, sell to John and Pete for $90 each, that's $180. Well, rather get $180 than $100, so you'd rather sell to John and Pete than to just John. But if you sell 3 goods, now to sell 3 goods, you got to lower the price to 20, and that would only give you $60 of revenue. So the monopolist will say, no, I'd rather just sell to 2 people. So in this example, the monopolist will make 2 goods, charge a price of $90, sell to John and Pete. This creates a deadweight loss because Cindy places a positive value on the good. The monopolist can make the good absolutely for free, but the monopolist is unwilling to sell to Cindy because the only way the monopolist can sell to Cindy is by charging a much, much lower price to the 2 other customers. The monopolist will be unwilling to do this, and so society will be less wealthy than if the monopolist sold 3 goods. Now I want to introduce you to the idea of marginal revenue. Marginal revenue is how much extra money you get from selling to 1 more customer. If you recall, marginal cost is how much extra cost you have to incur if you produce 1 more product. So marginal revenue is how much extra revenue you take in if you make 1 extra product or 1 more product than you were before. So let's take this simple example where there are 4 customers. The first is willing to pay $100, the second $70, the third $50, and the fourth $20. So what's the marginal revenue of making 1 product and selling the product just to customer A? Well, if you make no products, you get 0 revenue. If you make 1 product, you'll sell to A for $100. So if you sell 1 product, your marginal revenue of that product is $100. Now, what if you go from selling 1 to 2? Well, the only way to sell 2 products in this example is to set a price of $70. So if you sell 2 products at $70 each, your total revenue is going to be $140. So what's your marginal revenue of selling your second good? It is the difference between $140 and $100, or $40. So again, you sell 1 product, you sell it for $100, and you bring in $100 of revenue. You sell 2 products, you sell them for $70 each, you bring in $140 of revenue. So that means your extra revenue, your marginal revenue from selling the second product is $40. Why is that different from $70? Let's go through what's happening. Why is marginal revenue $40 and not $70? Well, when you sell to the second customer, there's a good and a bad thing that happen. The good thing is the second customer is going to give you $70. Yay. But the bad thing is the first customer A is going to say, oh wait, you remember how you were charging me $100? Well, there's that rule, you got to charge everyone the same price. So you want to sell to B, you can't charge me $100, you got to charge me $70. So basically give me a $30 discount over what you offered me before. So marginal revenue for selling to the second customer is the money you get from that customer, which is $70 in this case, minus the $30 discount you've got to give to customer number 1. And 70 minus 30 is 40. So your marginal revenue from selling to customer B, from selling your second good, is only $40. Now what's your marginal revenue of selling good number 3? Well, in this example, you're going to sell 3 products. You should charge a price of $50 each. So you'll bring in a total revenue of $150. Recall, if you sold 2 products, you'd bring in a total revenue of $140. So the extra revenue from selling to the third person is $10. The other way to calculate that is go back to the good and the bad. So you sell to person C. The good thing is person C is going to give you $50. That's yours. You got $50 from person C. The bad thing is customers A and B are going to say, hey, remember the rule? You got to charge everyone the same price? Well, when you were just selling to the 2 of us, you were charging us each $70. Now when you're selling to C, you're charging each of us $50. So you got to cut back by $20 to each of us. So you give the 2 of us a $20 discount. So that's, you got to give a total of $40 back. So now you're only getting an extra $10. So even though customer C is paying you $50, the marginal revenue of selling to customer C is only $10. Now what if you sell to customer D? Customer D is only willing to pay $20. So if you're going to sell to 4 people in this example, you got to charge a price of only $20. That means you're bringing in total revenue of $80. Well, now you got a negative marginal revenue because when you're selling to 3 people, you're bringing in $150. Now you're selling to 4 people, you're bringing in only $80. So that means you're losing $70. This is kind of weird. Even though The fourth customer is actually willing to pay you a positive amount of money. He's willing to pay you $20. You have $70 less by selling to customer D. And this is, I'm not looking at costs at all. This is just purely in terms of revenue. The reason is because of that discount you've got to give to the previous customers, right? You sell to customer D. The good thing is D is going to give you $20. The bad thing is A, B, and C are going to say, ha ha, you know the rule, you got to charge all of us the same price. Well, you had been charging us $50, now you got to charge us $20, and so you got to give us each $30 back, so you give 3 people back $30. That's the bad thing. And you get 20, but you give 3 people back 30, you end up being $70 behind. So certainly in this example, you are not going to want to sell to customer D, even if you can make the good for free. Thank you. So how much does a monopolist want to produce? Well, every time you make a new good, you get the good's marginal revenue, which could be positive or negative. But every time you make a new good, you have to pay that good's marginal cost. So as long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, you want to keep making goods. Whenever marginal revenue is less than or equal to marginal cost, you want to stop making goods. So when you produce another good, marginal revenue is what you get. That's the good thing. When you produce another good, however, you also have to pay something to make it probably. So as long as what you get for making the good is greater than the cost of making the good, you want to keep making more and more goods. When marginal revenue is no longer greater than marginal cost, you want to stop producing. We can use the fact that a monopolist wants to keep producing so long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost to graphically determine how much a monopolist is going to produce and what price the monopolist is going to charge. Let's imagine someone gave you these 3 curves. Someone gave you a monopolist marginal cost curve. They also gave you the demand curve, and they gave you the marginal revenue curve. So given these 3 curves and the fact that you want to keep producing so long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, we can figure out price and output. First thing we want to do is find where the marginal cost and marginal revenue curves intersect. Remember, the monopolist wants to keep producing so long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal costs. So let's find the point right exactly where that stops being true. All right, after we found where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, we drop down to the quantity axis, and that is going to tell us the monopolist's profit maximizing output. Because, right, you want to keep producing so long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, and then you don't want to go past that point. So if we drop down from where the marginal revenue and marginal cost curves intersect, that gives us the profit maximizing level of output. Once we found the monopolist's optimal output, we get the optimal price by going up to the demand curve and then over to the left. Now, some students will make a mistake of not going all the way up to the demand curve, but they'll just go up to the point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost and go left. That's wrong, because think what the demand curve is saying. If you know your output, the demand curve is telling you the highest price that you could charge and still sell all that output. So it would be wasteful for monopolists to charge less than the profit maximizing price indicated on this diagram. Thank you for listening to me today.